In June, when BlackRock announced its filing, or when it was announced that BlackRock had filed for Bitcoin ETF, the Bitcoin price did shoot up, but has been fairly stable since then. So I do think it's had an impact. A bigger impact this year was the regional bank crisis. It was very interesting to watch Bitcoin go from 19,000 to 30,000 right in the middle of that banking crisis as regional banks were going bankrupt. So it was a flight to safety. So I thought that move was just as.
Evet, Cathie Wood ve ARK Invest bu haftanın Bitcoin ve kripto piyasaları için büyük bir hafta olacağına inanıyor. Birçok kişi bunu bilmiyor ancak Cathie ve ARK Invest aslında 2015 yılında Bitcoin'e maruz kalan ilk kamuya açık varlık yöneticisi oldu. Bu haftaki son röportajında Bloomberg ile bu haftanın Bitcoin tarihinde büyük bir hafta olabileceği konusunda neden konuştuğuna değindi. Hangi tarihe dikkat etmelisiniz diye sorarken 13 Ağustos. Bu tarih SEC'nin ARK Invest Spot Bitcoin ETF'i hakkında bir karar vermek için gelmesi gereken tarih. En olası sonuç SEC'nin kararı ertelemesi ve tarihi ileriye taşımasıdır. Onay alma şansı ve ARK Invest ilk sıradadır. Cathie'nin önemli bir diğer noktası ise Bitcoin'in harika yanı. İki ayrı hedge rolü oynamasıdır. İlk olarak enflasyona ve mal varlığının açıkça el konulmasına karşı bir koruma işlevi görür. İkincisi, karşı taraf riskine karşı bir koruma işlevi görür. Bu yılın başında bölgesel bankacılık kriziyle yatırımcıların zihninin öne çıkan bir noktasına getirildi. Signature Bank ve First Republic Bank'ın çöküşüyle. Bitcoin'in değer teklifi net bir şekilde ortaya konuldu. Bankada nakit bile olsa güvende değilsiniz. Gerçek sahipliğiniz yok. Bunu Bitcoin çözer diye konuşuldu. Videoyu sonuna kadar izlemeyi unutmayın çünkü Cathie yeni sıcak inovasyon olan süper iletken hakkında düşüncelerini paylaşıyor ve ayrıca bir Mark Zuckerberg ve Elon Musk kafes maçında kimin kazanacağına dair tahminini sunuyor.
Well, if you think about it, Bitcoin serves as two kinds of hedges. One is a hedge against inflation and outright confiscation of wealth. The other is against counterparty risk. And, when the regional banks started going down, this fear sort of, our memories are fresh with 0809, the counterparty risk became real. And so there was this flight into Bitcoin, a completely decentralized, transparent network, which is not subject to counterparty risk. I think you're probably right that August 13th will come and go. And I think the SEC, if it's going to approve a Bitcoin ETF, will approve more than one at once. So then, again, because most of these essentially will be the same, and it will come down to marketing, communicating the message. We've been putting out our Bitcoin monthly for the last year. We are now starting a Bitcoin brainstorming session. Our first one we launched last Thursday. So we're trying to get the word out there that, our research is deep. And we've been doing it since 2015 when we gained our first exposure to GBTC. We were the first public asset manager to gain exposure to Bitcoin at all in 2015. Well, I think that the two other branches of government, the judicial branch and the legislative branch, are giving the SEC pause because the SEC is losing cases in court having to do with its regulations around crypto. That's the first thing. And there are bills that are making their way through the House and are seeing some bipartisan support. So I do believe that Gary Gensler, I guess last week or 10 days ago, said something like, well, I'm not the only one who makes this decision. There are 5 commissioners. Now, of course, we know they're weighted towards the Democrats, 3 Democrats, 2 Republicans. And so one assumes that the way that Gary votes is the way the SEC will vote. But he seemed to be distancing himself a little bit. And so maybe we can take that as a bit of a clue. We think that it is the most regulatory compliant exchange out there. And we've been very pleased with how its derivatives exchange in Bermuda has ramped in here. It's very early days, but again, clearly a trusted partner. And we are also seeing that there's more turmoil out there, I guess. Hubei, I think that's how you say the name of the exchange. and Tether and Finance. There are rumblings out there that not is all well. And so Coinbase, it is going to be the flight to safety exchange, no doubt about it. What I find so interesting still, and this is why we believe that the SEC will lose the grayscale case, how can you approve a Bitcoin futures ETF and not a Bitcoin ETF? And in fact, if you're really thinking about consumer protection, a futures ETF is swap space. So there's counterparty risk there that you would not have with a Bitcoin ETF, which is backed one-to-one with Bitcoin in Coinbase's cold storage. It still confounds me.
And not to mention the point that Eric makes, which is that if there had been an ETF, a lot of people wouldn't have bought Bitcoin at FTX. That would use that vehicle.
When the news broke more than a week ago, many people just thought it was a fraud. But our chief futurist, Brett Winton, said, wait a minute. This is not a fraud. It can't be a fraud because it's so simple. You can buy phosphorus, copper, and you can actually follow their instructions and duplicate this. We're going to find out pretty quickly. And what it does seem is that it is possible. So we went from thinking Friday a week ago, oh, maybe 10-15% chance to now, while the betting markets are at 40%, I think we are more in the 60% plus range. So, and, it could be the breakthrough we need for quantum computing, or at least bringing it into reality from a commercialization point of view sooner than expected, or the high-speed trains. It could change so many things, and particularly our electric system where, we lose so much heat, and data centers where we lose so much energy because of the inefficiencies associated with current electricity.
Elon Musk and Zuckerberg may have a cage match fight. Do you take a side in that fight? Do you think Musk is up to the task?
Whenever he puts his mind to something, I wouldn't bet against him. That's what I'll say. But I did read this morning that he's saying that, or tweeting that he has to probably go for a back operation first for something having to do with his discs. So I would hope that he would wait until he's completely on the mend.
Bu yüzden bu hafta Bitcoin ve geniş kripto piyasası için bir dönüm noktası olabilir. Eğer ARK Invest'in Bitcoin ETF'i onaylanırsa ancak fazla heyecanlanmayalım. ARK Invest daha önce SEC tarafından ertelenmişti. Bu sefer farklı olmayacak tuhaf bir bahis ortada. Onlar BlackRock veya Fidelity gibi iç çevrenin bir parçası değiller. Aslında SEC'nin karar tarihine erteleme ihtimalini %95 olarak değerlendiririm. Ama yine de bir şans. Eğer ertelenirse sadece daha fazla Satoshi biriktirmek için daha fazla zaman olacak. BlackRock karar tarihi çok yakında gelecek. Mart 2024 tarihini dikkate alın. Tesadüfen yarılanmadan, yani halvingden bir ay önce. Her durumda bugünkü videodan keyif aldığınızı ve size biraz değer sağladığını umarım. Hepinizi bir sonraki videoda görmek üzere. Hoşça kalın.